So, good day, sir, and good day, co-cadets. So, today we're going to discuss and report about the tips for the safe mooring operations. So, first, we have the course, which is the Mtec 102 or the Enhancement for Maritime course. So, period. So, we are now in the prelim period and week. So, we are week 2, and this is the session 1 for the reporting. So, the title is the 6 tips for the safe mooring operations and the mooring challenges from line manufacturer's perspective. So we are the group 1 and the reporters are namely, so yours truly, I'm the Cadet Abad, together with my colleague, the Cadet Abajo, the Cadet Abale, and the Cadet Tangkay. So for the course outcome, so is to know the safe and effective mooring operations practice on board. And the learning outcome is, at the end of this lesson, so the student should determine and know what are the 6 tips and safety tips in conducting the mooring operation. So the importance of the topic. So mooring and unmooring operations hide a number of risks for those who get involved, many times leading to fatal accident or collision. Thus, it is of great importance when conducting any mooring operation to follow specific steps to ensure the safety of all those conducting the operation. So, but before we formally discuss about the 6 tips in conducting a safe mooring and the mooring challenges from the line manufacturer's perspective, so first we must know or must define what is mooring and unmooring is all about. So mooring, is a procedure to anchor the ship to a fixed or a floating element, and it keeps connected during loading and unloading operations. So the mooring operation is understood as the service whose purpose making fast a vessel by taking its lines and attaching them to fixtures or quays or even jetties, and following instructions from the captain of the vessel in the mooring sector designated by the port authorities and in the appropriate order and layout in order to facilitate docking and mooring and unberthing operations. So while unmooring operations, so this is a service is understood as the service whose object is to release and cast off the lines of the vessel from the fixtures to which it's moored. The following sequence and instructions issued by the captain and without affecting the mooring conditions and contiguous vessels. So, mooring and unmooring operations provide circumstances for potentially serious accidents. So, there is no doubt that this duty requires a good technique initially in lifting the heavy eye of the rope, followed by the good pulling technique. So, we must consider that care must be taken therefore with the laying out of heavy mooring ropes or wire ropes or hawsers. So now I'll give the floor to my colleague to discuss about the 6 tips in safe mooring and mooring challenges from line manufacturers' perspectives.
So, 6 tips of safe mooring. So, number 1 is the use of appropriate lines. So, choosing the ideal mooring lines depends on local factors such as the water depth, the tidal range, and wave energy, as well as on the material the mooring lines are constructed from. Like for synthetic fiber rope, a synthetic fiber rope has a lightweight, almost neutrally buoyant. The rope is highly extensible and is useful for very deep water. But the costs of synthetic fiber rope are relatively high. So the combination of both the material and the conditions where a vessel is to conduct its mooring operations play a crucial role for the operation to be successful. So when opting for the mooring lines, keep in mind the weight and diameter of the line in comparison to required strength, the elasticity of the material, the durability including resistance to high temperature, strong sunlight or chemicals, whether the lines will float or not, required maintenance including method and ease of repair, and lastly is the availability of replacement lines in vessels expected trading area. And so lug new lines and know their exact position. When acquiring new mooring lines, it is vital to report them and know their exact position on the vessel. They can be easily achieved by keeping a log in which you may include the position for each line on board, manufacture date, date of first use on board, and hours under tension. It is essential to do this so that we can easily identify which lines are weak and needs to be replaced and which lines are still usable. So number 2 is to set an inspection system. Ensuring the ideal mooring operation, it is important to follow the following steps below. So number 1 is to calculate the estimated life expectancy of a mooring rope. Determining the exact lifespan of a rope can be difficult as there are numerous factors that can influence how long a rope can be used on board a vessel. One example is the mooring arrangement and its design. Sometimes, mooring arrangements are not ideal and can even cause unnecessary abrasion of the ropes. This should be carefully considered in the design phase of the vessel. Number 2 is to set retirement criteria. There is what we call as LMP or Line Management Plan. It is used to manage the operation and retirement of mooring lines and tails. The LMP also documents the requirements, assumptions, and evaluation methods used in determining the line retirement criteria. Number 3 is to set intervals for routine and detailed inspections so that we can see the conditions of the ropes to ensure a safe and successful mooring operation. The 4th is to request third-party assistance for inspections, and lastly is the residue strength testing. Under the possibility that any damaged, defective, or unserviceable piece of mooring equipment is found during inspections, it must be taken out of service and be either replaced or repaired. So the 3rd tip is plan operation. Another step to be taken prior to beginning the operation is to exactly plan the procedure from the very first step to the last one. Creating a mooring plan based on mooring positions, the area, and the environmental conditions is a crucial part for the operation. Also, the plan should be clear on the number of the lines that are going to be used in mooring, and the crew in charge of the operation should assess the situation.
The next is number 4, toolbox meeting. The toolbox meeting is a crucial step not to be avoided as those participating will in detail analyze the plan, the potential challenges, and what mitigation measures will be followed. Mitigation measures are means to prevent, reduce, and include restitution for any damage to the environment. Moreover, the meeting will provide safety instructions for those who will conduct the operations. So, safe work instructions define the minimum safety requirements to ensure the protection of persons from risk to their occupational health and safety arising. So, in case of emergency, they will be able to handle the situation and highlight that all mooring area is a snapback hazardous area. So, a snapback is a sudden recoil of mooring line as a result of its failure under tension, that possibly resulting in injury or even death to crew present within this zone. Meaning that all crew should be extra cautious during mooring. Next is number 5, execute. Following the preparations, the plans, and the alerts on the risk of mooring, the time has come when the crew has to provide the lines to shore party. During the operation, it is vital to always have in mind the hazards and provide clean instructions to all parties, so that everyone is aware of their exact place and responsibility. Keep in mind that communication is the key during operations, as all parties should follow orders and inform during the execution of mooring. In case of abnormal situation, if something seems out of plan, the crew members have to report it so that it is rapidly handled and any potential accident is prevented. The last tips for safe mooring is number 6, post-operation activities. After the vessel is safely moored and secure in a place, the crew members have to secure all lines. Put everything back in place, as housekeeping is essential on board a vessel, and then carry out the debriefing of a team. So good housekeeping is essential to a safe workplace on board a vessel. The appearance of your ship and its equipment on the outside suggests how well things are operating on the inside, and more important, contributes to the health, safety, and happiness of the vessel and the crew. During debriefing, the safety officer should debrief the crew referring to all stages of execution, as the crew should have regular follow-ups on what they could improve in the operation. The debriefing, additionally, gives room for additional discussions on safety issues that were detected during mooring operations. So debriefing on ships is done to detect and discuss problems that occurred, like when dealing with critical situation, and to improve future performance. An important part is to praise things well done and to deflect guilt or blame. Thank you.
Thank you, Co-Cadet. So now let's move on to the mooring challenges from line manufacturer's perspective. First, I will be mentioning a person named Mr. Constantino Koronakis, a CEO. Dr. Koronakis makes a brief assessment of MAG4, pinpointing areas of improvement after 1 year of implementation. As a line manufacturer, he provides insight into key issues concerning mooring, highlighting that mooring operations are certainly challenging but also safe when all precautions are taken. In this regard, MAG4 has made significant progress. Nonetheless, better communication between all parties involved remains a crucial topic. And by the way, for your information, MAG stands for Mooring Equipment Guidelines. So next, we will be tackling the main difference between MAG3 and MAG4 from the perspective of Konstantinos Koronakis. So, Mr. Koronakis said that the main scope of all MAG4 recommendations is to upgrade the safety of the crew, to assist with the construction and selection of the most suitable mooring lines, and to enable all involved parties to properly compare and select the suitable mooring rope quality in terms of quality and price. In order to follow MAG4, the line manufacturer has to conduct several tests that define the properties of the rope under the presence of a third-party surveyor. It is also defined that all strength corresponds to spliced lines, and for mooring tails, the reference is made to lines with condition. The line manufacturer has the obligation to provide the customer detailed manual that includes safe handling instructions, adverse onboard wear conditions, mooring fittings, proper maintenance, inspections, and evaluations of ropes condition, and also splicing instruction, proposed intermediate destructive tests, retirement criteria, and all other information that is useful for establishing proper and safe optional conditions. And also, according to MG4, the involvement of line manufacturers in relevant procedure is considered as important. And there's a question: is there a need for all related requirements to be addressed by line manufacturing companies as well? For the Safety for Sea website, it was said there that any requirement in regard with mooring ropes can be addressed by the line manufacturer. However, depending on its nature, there is the possibility that the manufacturer is not the appropriate person to reply. The rope manufacturer acts as an advisor or an expert. All final decisions are responsibly taken by the operators. MAG4 also introduced new terms, and it provides us opinions about onset limits regarding ship design MBL and LDBF. But according to Mr. Constantinos, by the definition of ship's design MBL, a reference uniformity was achieved. All strength parameters such as mooring rope, mooring fittings, brake holdings, capacities, etc. are calculated using this value. In this way, any misunderstandings are avoided. According to MG4, each mooring line needs to be assessed for service life expectancy, involving consultation by manufacturers. How easy is to determine the service life expectancy of a new line and what factors should be taken into consideration? Dr. Constantinus answered that question. He said that the manufacturer can estimate and propose the expected service life for a new line based on various tests which are made at yarn and rope level and his experience factor from tests and feedbacks received. This rope's lifetime is affected by the operating mooring conditions. Also the line directional angles, either horizontal, vertical, heel angle, or its DD ratio. The condition of mooring fittings and mooring frequency. Each operator has to define mooring line's service life expectancy taking into consideration manufacturer's proposals, ship's report as for the condition, inspection, wear, repair, ports visited along with the weather condition, etc., and finally their own experience factor. Next is we have Safety for Sea Network has a question. Is there any way for a user to determine the maximum period of use of a new purchased line on board under normal environmental condition and frequency of moorings? Also, Dr. Constantinos has an answer for this. He said, provided standard environmental conditions and specific repeated mooring operations, the operator can choose the most damaged line which will be test distracted. Depending on the results of the distracted test, along with all data from the record keeping booklet and manufacturer's proposal, the operator can define the line's service expectancy. And also the second question of safety for sea network is that, from your experience, are there any tips for a line user regarding expectations, use, and storage of lines? Dr. Constantinos also answered that the best tip for the user to inspect, use, and store the lines is to follow recommended guidelines as described at manufacturer's relevant manual, along with operator instruction referred into line management plan. It is recommended also that all data to be accurately recorded by the experienced person, such as crew, officers, inspectors, and any other third parties for reference when needed. And lastly, Safety for Sea Network provides a question that tells what is your key message to operators with respect to MAG4. So Dr. Constantinos responded, and he said, after 1 year of the implementation of MEG4, we believe that progress has been made, but still some time is needed for all involved parties, such as builders, operators, line manufacturers, and crew, to optimize communication. MEG4 is oriented to the safety of the crew and the rest involved parties. All missing information and gaps from the previous edition are completely covered. Last but not the least, it points out that the operations at the mooring area are considered dangerous but at the same time safe if all precautions recommendations are followed. That's all from our part. Thank you.